silence, I hear you call my name. Your whispers of love ignite holy flame. Every prayer lifted, you're watching from above. With every heartbeat, I feel your endless love. You guide my steps in the darkest of nights. Through valleys and storms, your light ignites my life. Love notes from the heavens calling out to me.
Hey everybody, this is Melissa from Catch the Buzz, and this is the book I'm going to read to you today, None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. And this book is recommended by our prophet. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In 1971, our prophet, President Ezra Taft Benson, in the October 1971 General Conference, recommended to everybody that they read this book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen.
Whose desire was to overthrow the freedom of the people. And they have caused the destruction of this people of whom I am now speaking, says Moroni, and also the destruction of the people of Nephi. Now undoubtedly Moroni could have pointed out many factors that led to the destruction of the people. But notice how he singled out the secret combinations, just as the church today could point out many threats to peace, prosperity, and the spread of God's work. But it has singled out the greatest threat as the great conspiracy. There is no conspiracy theory in the Book of Mormon. It is a conspiracy fact. And along this line, I would highly recommend to you a new book entitled None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen.
And I just really felt like this was something, especially with what's going on right now, for people to want to talk about things. And we have the war in Israel going on and the 2024 election between Trump and Kamala Harris. So anyways, so a little bit about Ezra Taft Benson. He actually is he's an American farmer, a government official, and religious leader who served as the 15th United States Secretary of Agriculture during both presidential terms of Dwight D. Eisenhower, and as the 13th President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from 1985 until his death in 1994. So he wasn't just a religious leader, he was also a political leader. And obviously somebody who was trusted and was in a position, in my opinion, from what I see, to hear a no and see a lot of things going on that didn't feel right. So, and I know myself, I was just in a little PTA position at our kids' school as a science and STEM school. And I was like director of activities or something like that. I wasn't in the position for very long, because even for me, being at the meeting for a little while, once I had gotten into the position, because I had gone to several meetings before, but by the time we had everybody in their positions and I was sitting there at this meeting and I'm feeling the temptation, even myself, to have things for myself, for my children, because of the situation that I was in, because I could do it, because I saw that happening with other people in just this small school. And I felt those temptations from the adversary, and that really scared me and made me, just kind of shocked me that even myself, being a person who prides myself in having integrity and being honest, was tempted. I just had those thoughts. Anyway, so we're going to go ahead and start reading this. So this book, it only has like 110 pages. So my goal is to do each video reading a chapter. We'll see if we get through a whole chapter. So this, copyright 1971. And you can get this book on Amazon. I paid about $17 for it to get a paper copy of it. And this is, of course, a paperback, not a hardback copy. But you can get a free one on Amazon that is like a digital download. So this is the introduction. The story you are about to read is true. The names have not been changed to protect the guilty. This book may have the effect of changing your life. After reading this book, you will never look at national and world events in the same way again. None dare call it conspiracy will be a very controversial book. At first, it will receive a little publicity, and those whose plans are exposed in it will try to kill it by the silent treatment. For reasons that become obvious as you read this book, it will not be reviewed in all the proper places or be available on your local bookstand. However, there is nothing else people can do to stop a grassroots book distributing system. Eventually, it will be necessary for the people and organizations named in this book to try to blunt its effect by attacking it or the author. They have a tremendous vested interest in keeping you from discovering what they are doing, and they will have the big guns of the mass media at their disposal to fire the barrages at none dare call it conspiracy. By sheer volume, and just so you know, I may end up having to edit out little parts of this, so like I might have to, now I'll have to figure something out if I feel like the words are too controversial these days, 2024. Shocking, right? By sheer volume, the experts will try to ridicule you out of investigating for yourself as to whether or not the information in this book is true. They will ignore the fact that the author admits that some of his ideas are about to conjecture because the people who know the truth are not about to confess. They will find a typographical error or argue some point that is open to debate. If necessary, they will lie in order to protect themselves by smearing this book. Psychologically, many people would prefer to believe those who poo-poo the information, herein because we all like to ignore bad news. We do so at our own peril. Having been a college instructor, a state senator, and now a congressman, I have had experience with real professionals at putting up smokescreens to cover up their own actions by trying to destroy the accuser. I hope that you will read the book carefully, draw your own conclusions, and not accept the opinions of those who of necessity must attempt to discredit the book. Your future may depend on it. And so that's the introduction, October 25th, 1971, by John G. Schmitz, United States Congressman. And thank you for joining me today. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any thoughts while I read this, of your own experiences, things you've heard, questions you have, I would love to have them and hear them. Thank you. So, Chapter 1, Don't Confuse Me with Facts. Most of us have had the experience, either as parents or youngsters, of trying to discover the hidden picture within another picture in a children's magazine. Usually you are shown a landscape with trees, bushes, flowers, and other bits of nature. The caption reads something like this: Concealed somewhere in this picture is a donkey pulling a cart with a boy in it. Can you find them? Try as you might, usually you could not find the hidden picture until you turned to a page farther back in the magazine, which would reveal how cleverly the artist had hidden it from us. If we study the landscape, we realize that the whole picture was painted in such a way as to conceal the real picture within. And once we see the real picture, it stands out like the proverbial painful digit. That's kind of different terminology than we'd use, I think. We believe the picture painters of the mass media are artfully creating landscapes for us, which deliberately hide the real picture. In this book, we will show you how to discover the hidden picture in the landscapes presented to us daily through newspapers, radio, and television. Once you can see through the camouflage, you will see the donkey, the cart, and the boy who have been there all along. And a little thing I want to inject here. There's a YouTube channel called True Millennial, and he did a video about media, and it's really eye-opening, and I will make sure to share a link to that in the description or pin it in the comments below. But because he's somebody who works in media, and so he has experience with seeing and being a part of putting together information to be shared out, and so he can't help it with his profession to not see when it's manipulation is being done to others. Millions of Americans are concerned and frustrated over mishappenings in our nation. Is this happening today, right? They feel that something is wrong, drastically wrong, but because of the picture painters, they can't quite put their fingers on it. I think a lot of us would agree with that right now, since 2020 especially. And I don't think it matters what part of the world you're in, because it was affecting just about everybody. Maybe you are one of those persons. Something is bugging you, but you aren't sure what. We keep electing new presidents who seemingly promise faithfully to halt the worldwide communist advance, put the blocks to extravagant government spending, douse the tea of inflation, put the economy on an even keel, reverse the trend, which is turning the country into a moral sewer, and toss the criminals into the hoosegow where they belong, which means like prison or something like that, in jail. Punishing people for doing bad things. Yet despite high hopes, sorry, that was my interjection in case there's people here that don't know what those words mean, what they're saying. Yet despite high hopes and glittering campaign promise, these problems continue to worsen no matter who is in office. Each new administration, whether it be Republican or Democrat, continues the same basic policies of the previous administration, which it had so thoroughly denounced during the election campaign. It is considered poor form to mention this, but it is true nonetheless. Is there a plausible reason to explain why this happens? We are not supposed to think so. We are supposed to think it is all accidental and coincidental, and that therefore there is nothing we can do about it. FDR, so that's Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of our presidents, once said, "In politics, nothing happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way." He was in a good position to know we believe that many of our major world events that are shaping our destinies occur because somebody or somebodies have planned them that way. If we were merely dealing with the law of averages, half of the events affecting our nation's well-being should be good for America. If we were dealing with mere incompetence, our leaders should occasionally make a mistake in our favor. We shall attempt to prove that we are not really dealing with coincidence or stupidity, but with planning and brilliance. This small book deals with that planning and brilliance and how it has shaped the foreign and domestic policies of the last 6 administrations. We hope it will explain matters which have up to now seemed inexplicable, that it will bring into sharp focus images which have been obscured by the landscape painters of the mass media. Those who believe that major world events result from planning are laughed at for believing in the conspiracy theory of history. Of course, no one in this modern day and age really believes in the conspiracy theory of history, except those who have taken the time to study the subject. When you think about it, there are really only two theories of history. Either things happen by accident, either planned or caused by anybody, or they happen because they are planned and somebody causes them to happen. I'll just pause right here for a second and we can think of some fires that have happened recently. Yeah, there's a lot of things, and I would love to have your comments. Thank you. In reality, it is the accidental theory of history preached in the unhallowed halls of Ivy which should be ridiculed. Otherwise, why does every recent administration make the same mistakes as the previous ones? Why do they repeat the errors of the past which produce inflation, depressions, and war? Why does our State Department stumble from one communist-aiding blunder to another? If you believe it is all an accident or the result of mysterious and unexplainable tides of history, you will be regarded as an intellectual who understands that we live in a complex world. If you believe that something like 32,496 consecutive coincidences over the past 40 years stretches the law of averages a bit, you are a kook. You're a crazy person, a kook. Why is it that virtually all reputable scholars and mass media columnists and commentators reject the cause and effect of conspiratorial theory of history? Primarily, most scholars follow the crowd in the academic world, just as most women follow fashions. To buck the tide means social and professional ostracism. The same is true of the mass media. While professors and pontificators profess to be tolerant and broad-minded, in practice it's strictly a one-way street, with all traffic flowing left. A Maoist can be tolerated by liberals of ivory tower land or by the establishment's media pundits, but to be a conservative and a conservative who propounds a conspiratorial view is absolutely verboten. Better you should be a drunk at a national convention. It's a national WCTU. I'm not sure what WCTU means, convention. It says WCTU convention. Secondly, these people, if you know, put that in the comments below. Let's see, let me look really quick back here, and I don't see anything that I think is really telling me what WCTU means. Secondly, these people have over the years acquired a strong, vested emotional interest in their own errors. Their intellects and egos are totally committed to the accidental theory. Most people are highly reluctant to admit that they have been conned or have shown poor judgment. To inspect the evidence of the existence of a conspiracy guiding our political destiny from behind the scenes would force many of these people to repudiate a lifetime of accumulated opinions. It makes a person with strong character indeed to face facts and admit he has been wrong, even if it was because he was uninformed. Such was the case with the author of this book. It was only because he set out to prove the conservative and anti-communist wrong that he happened to end up writing this book. His initial reaction to the conservative point of view, and that's the author Gary Allen, was one of suspicion and hostility. And it was only after many months of intensive research that he had to admit that he had been conned. Politicians and intellectuals are attracted to the concept that events are propelled by some mysterious tide of history or happen by accident. By this reasoning, they hope to escape the blame when things go wrong. Most intellectuals, pseudo and otherwise deal with the conspiratorial theory of history simply by ignoring it. They never attempt to refute the evidence. It can't be refuted. If and when the silent treatment doesn't work, these subjective scholars and mass media opinion molders resort to personal attacks, ridicule, and satire. The personal attacks tend to divert attention from the facts, which an author or speaker is trying to expose. The idea is to force the person exposing the conspiracy to stop the exposure and spend his time and effort defending himself. However, the most effective weapons used against the conspiratorial theory of history are ridicule and satire. These extremely potent weapons can be cleverly used to avoid any honest attempt at refuting the facts. After all, nobody likes to be made fun of. Rather than be ridiculed, most people will keep quiet. And this subject certainly does lend itself to ridicule and satire. So being harassed and judged, and so that's like ridicule, and satire, being made a joke or fun of, laughing at your expense. One technique which can be used is to expand the conspiracy to the extent it becomes absurd. For instance, our man from the halls of poison ivy might say in a scoffing or arrogant tone, "I suppose you believe every liberal professor gets a telegram each morning from conspiracy headquarters containing his orders for the day's brainwashing of his students." Some conspiratorialists do indeed overdraw the picture by expanding the conspiracy from the small clique which it is to include every local knee-jerk liberal activist and government bureaucrat, or because of racial or religious bigotry. They will take small fragments of legitimate evidence and expand them into a conclusion that will support their particular prejudice, i.e., the conspiracy is totally Jewish, Catholic, or Masonic. These people do not help to expose the conspiracy, but sadly play into the hands of those who want the public to believe that all conspiratorialists are screwballs. Intellectuals are fond of mouthing cliches like the conspiracy theory is often tempting. However, it is overly simplistic to ascribe absolutely everything that happens to the machinations of a small group of power-hungry conspirators is overly simplistic. But in our opinion, nothing is more simplistic than doggedly holding onto the accidental view of major world events. So I'm sure there's a lot of us that, I know it's true for me, that especially during the time of 2020, seeing how all these different governments and things seem to be working together. All of a sudden they're getting along and they agree on how to handle things. Very interesting. Nothing suspicious about that. LOL. Laugh out loud for anybody who doesn't know what LOL means. Alright. In most cases, liberals simply accuse all those who discuss the conspiracy of being paranoid. Ah, you right-wingers, they say, rustling every bush, kicking over every rock, looking for imaginary boogeymen. Then comes the coup de grace, labeling conspiratorial theory as the devil theory of history. The liberals love that one, even though it is an empty phrase that sounds so sophisticated. With the leaders of the academic and communications world assuming this sneering attitude towards the conspiratorial or cause and effect theory of history, it is not surprising that millions of innocent and well-meaning people in a natural desire not to appear naive assume the attitudes and repeat the cliches of the opinion makers. These persons, in their attempt to appear sophisticated, assume their mentors' air of smug superiority, even though they themselves have not spent 5 minutes in study on the subject of international conspiracy. So it is important for us to seek out knowledge for ourselves. It is very hard for us to know who to trust these days except for God. The accidentalists would have us believe that ascribing any of our problems to planning is simplistic, and all our problems are caused by poverty, ignorance, and disease. So poverty being poor, ignorance just not knowing things, and then disease, things that are out of our control, is what I would say. Hereinafter abbreviated is as PID. So that's poverty, ignorance, and disease is PID. Real and imagined as an excuse to build a jail for us all. Most of the world has been in PID since time immemorial, and it was incredibly superficial thinking to ascribe the ricocheting of the United States government from our disaster to another over the past 30 years or to PID. Accidentalists ignore the fact that some of the more advanced nations in the world have been captured by communists. Czechoslovakia was one of the world's most modern industrial nations. And Cuba had the second highest per capita income of any nation in Central and South America. It is not true, however, to state that there are no members of the intellectual elite who subscribe to the conspiratorial theory of history. For example, there is Professor Carol Quigley of the Foreign Service School at Georgetown University. Professor Quigley can hardly be made inseparable by the mass media. Those three words have been made inseparable by the mass media. Dr. Quigley has all the liberal credentials, having taught at the liberal establishment's academic academic meccas of Princeton and Harvard. In his 1350 page 5-pound sorry, 5-pound Tom, I think that might be spelled wrong, Tragedy and Hope. Dr. Quigley reveals the existence of the conspiratorial network, which will be discussed in this book. The professor is not merely formulating a theory, but revealing this network's existence from first-hand experience. He also makes it clear that it is only the network's secrecy and not their goals to which he objects. Professor Quigley discloses, I know of the operations of this network because I have studied it for 20 years and was permitted for 2 years in the early 1960s to examine its papers and secret records. I have no aversion to it or to most of its aims and have for much of my life been close to it and to many of its instruments. I have objected both in the past and recently to a few of its policies, but in general, my chief difference of opinion is that it wishes to remain unknown, and I believe its role in history is significant enough to be known. We agree its role in history does deserve to be known. That is why we have written this book. However, we must emphatically disagree with this network's aim, which the professor describes as nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. In other words, this power and clique wants to control and rule the world. Even more frightening, they want total control over an individual's actions. As Professor Quigley observes, his individual's freedom and choice will be controlled within very narrow alternatives by the fact that he will be numbered from birth and followed as a number through his educational training. His required military or on other public services, his tax contributions, his death and medical requirements, and his final retirement and death benefits. It wants control over all natural resources, business, banking, and transportation by controlling the governments of the world. In order to accomplish these aims, the conspirators have had no qualms about fomenting wars. Okay. I'm not sure. I think that's a typo again, maybe. I'm not sure. Fomenting. I don't know what fomenting means. Depressions and hatred. They want a monopoly which would eliminate all competitors and destroy the free enterprise system. And Professor Quigley of Harvard, Princeton, and Georgetown approves. Professor Quigley is not the only academic who is aware of the existence of the cliche of self-perpetuating conspirators whom we shall call insiders. There are also religious leaders who are aware of the existence of this conspiracy In a UPI story dated December 27th, 1965, Father Pedro Arupe, head of the Jesuit order of the Roman Catholic Church, made the following charges during his remarks to the Ecumenical Council. Wow, there's some hard words in here for me. This godless society operates in an extremely efficient manner, at least in its higher levels of leadership. It makes use of every possible means at its disposal, be they sufficient, scientific, technical, social, or economic. It follows a perfectly mapped out strategy. It holds almost complete sway in international organizations and financial circles in the field of mass communications, press, cinema, radio, and television. There are a number of problems to be overcome in convincing a person of the possible existence of a conspiratorial clique of insiders who, from the very highest levels, manipulate government policy. In this case, truth is really stranger than fiction. We are dealing with history's greatest whodunit, a mysterious thriller which puts Earl Stanley Gardner to shame. If you love a mystery, you'll be fascinated with the study of There are also religious leaders who are aware of the existence of this conspiracy. In a UPI story dated December 27th, 1965, Father Pedro Arupe, head of the Jesuit order of the Roman Catholic Church, made the following changes during his remarks to the Ecumenical Council. This godless society operates in an extremely efficient manner, at least in its higher levels of leadership. It makes use of every possible means following charges during the It follows a perfectly mapped out strategy. It holds almost complete sway in international organizations, in financial circles, in the field of mass communications, press, cinema, radio, and television. And this will be brought up in the True Millennial video I was telling you about. There are a number of problems to be overcome in convincing a person of the possible existence of a conspiratorial clique of insiders who, from the very highest levels, manipulate government policy. In this case, truth is really stranger than fiction. We are dealing with history's greatest whodunit, a mystery. You'll be fascinated with the study of the operations of the insiders. If you do study this network of which Professor Quigley speaks, you will find that what had at first seemed incredible not only exists, but heavily influences our lives. It must be remembered that the first job of any conspiracy, whether it be in politics, crime, or within a business office, is to convince everyone else that no conspiracy exists. The conspirators' success will be determined largely by their ability to do this. That the elite of the determined largely by their ability to do this. That the elite of the academic world and mass communications media are always poo-poo the existence of the insiders merely serves to camouflage their operations. These artists hide the boy, the cart, and the donkey. Probably at some time you have been involved with or had personal knowledge of some event which was reported in the news. Perhaps it concerned an athletic event, an election, a committee, or your business. And please, again, put in the comments below if you think of anything or have an experience with these things. Perhaps it concerned... Oh, sorry, I read that already. Did the report contain the real story? The story behind the story? Probably not. And for a variety of reasons, the reporter had time and space problems, and there is a good chance the persons involved deliberately did not reveal all the facts. Possibly the reporter's own prejudice governed what facts went into the story and which were deleted. Our point is that most people know from personal experience that a news story often is not the whole story, but many of us assume that our own case is unique and when really it is typical. What is true about the reporting of local events is equally as true about the reporting of national and international events. And I see this on a small scale with people that are influencers, are online, is they want to set a good first impression, and so then they'll also go to the point of being dishonest about things that are going on to make something look like something or something else. And the sad reality of people complaining about having to work so hard. When I think about when I had my first child, I worked 3 part-time jobs. I watched some kids in my home. I worked at Kmart, and then I picked up laundry at an assisted living for elderly people facility, and brought the laundry home and washed it and brought it back and got paid some money to do that. And so even being a mom with 1 child, I worked 3 part-time jobs, and I forget about that often, that I was challenging, very time consuming, and I had to really plan things out well so I was able to do it all. Psychological problems are also involved in inducing people to look at the evidence concerning the insiders. People are usually comfortable with their old beliefs and conceptions. When Columbus told people the world was a ball and not a pancake, so round and not flat, they were highly upset. They were being asked to reject their way of thinking of a lifetime and adopt a whole new outlook. The intellectuals of the day scoffed at Columbus, and people were afraid they would lose social prestige if they listened to him. Many others just did not want to believe the world was round. It complicated too many things, and typical flat earthers had such a vested interest involving their own egos that they heaped abuse on Columbus for challenging their views of the universe. Don't confuse us with facts. Our minds are made up, they said. And I'm sure you've definitely seen this, and I've seen this too, and I think that we all have a hard time if we believe something to be true and then we find out that something's wrong, doesn't feel right. It's hard to admit when you are wrong. For all of us, I think. These same factors apply today. Because the establishment controls the media, and this is what's brought by true millennial too, that so many companies would own media before, but now it all comes down to about 6. And Yeah, it's again, I'll put in the link below. It's very interesting. Okay. So let me find out where I'm at. Media. Okay. The establishment controls the media. Anyone exposing the insiders will be the recipient of a continuous fusillade. I don't know what that is. Of invective from newspapers, magazines, TVs, and radio. In this manner, one is threatened with loss of social respectability, or in our words these days, being canceled. If he dares approach the idea that there is organization behind any of the problems currently racking America, unfortunately for many people, social status comes before intellectual honesty. Although they would never admit to it, social position is more important to many people than is the survival of freedom in America. Yeah, that's pretty sad. If you ask these people which is more important, social respectability or saving their children from slavery, they will tell you the latter, of course, but their actions or lack of same speak so much louder than their words. People have an infinite capacity for rationalization. When it comes to refusing to face the threat of America's survival, deep down, these people are afraid they may be laughed at if they take a stand, or may be denied an invitation to some social climber's cocktail party. Instead of getting mad at the insiders, these people actually get angry at these who are trying to save the country by exposing the conspirators. One thing which makes it so hard for some socially minded people to assess the conspiratorial evidence objectively is that the conspirators come from the very highest social strata. They are immensely wealthy, highly educated, and extremely cultured. Many of them have lifelong reputations for philanthropy. Philanthropy, basically giving away money and being so generous. Nobody enjoys being put in the position of accusing prominent people of conspiring to enslave their fellow Americans. But the facts are inescapable. Many businesses and professionals people are particularly vulnerable to the "don't jeopardize your social respectability" pitch given by those who don't want the conspiracy exposed. The insiders know that if the business and professional community will not take a stand to save the private enterprise system, the socialism through which they intend to control the world, will be inevitable. They believe that most business and professional men are too shallow and decadent, too status conscious, too tied up in the problems of their jobs and businesses to worry about what is going on in politics. These men are told that it might be bad for business or jeopardize their government contracts if they take a stand. They have been bribed into silence with their own tax monies. We are hoping that the conspirators have underestimated the courage and patriotism remaining in the American people. We feel there are a sufficient number of you who are not mesmerized by the television set. Me, I'm not mesmerized. I have been at times, but I can see the difference now. By the television set, please let me know, are you one that feels like you've been lulled away into a false comfort or realization of things that are not true? I can find my spot. let's see. They have been bribed into silence with their own tax monies. So, meaning that they won't have to pay any taxes, I think, is what that pretty much comes down to. We are hoping that conspirators have underestimated the courage and patriotism remaining in the American people. We feel there are a sufficient number of you who are American people. We feel there are a sufficient number of you who are not mesmerized by the television set, who put God, family, and country above social status, who will band together to expose and destroy the conspiracy of the insiders. The philosopher Diogenes, Diogenes, scoured the life and breadth of ancient Greece, searching for an honest man. We are scouring the length and breadth of America in search of hundreds of thousands of intellectually honest men and women who are willing to investigate facts and come to logical conclusions, no matter how unpleasant those conclusions may be. So thank you for joining me for Chapter 1 of None Dare Call It Conspiracy by Gary Allen. The next chapter is going to be Chapter 2, Socialism, Royal Road to Power for the Super Rich. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to talk to people from all over the world, and that we can learn so many things from each other. And so to me, this is another one of those reasons why I'm thinking Jesus has got to come back soon for the rapture, second coming, whichever you prefer to call it, because there are so many things going on, and there are opportunities for people to be able to share the truth of things, and making it harder for them to hide the things that they are doing. As our prophet has stated before, some things are not even hardly being hidden anymore. And so it's a great opportunity to unite people all over the world. And people truly do know and see, in my opinion, how great America is. And that is a land of the free, home of the brave. And there's a reason why so many people are trying so hard to be here, and it is a special place. And I'll share more about my opinions and my experiences about why I feel and see things that way. So this is Melissa from Catch the Buzz. Thank you for joining me. Please like, comment, subscribe, share with me in the comment section any experiences that you've had, things that you've seen. And I hope this is a book that you've heard of, or you haven't before, you have now. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you later. We'll see ya. Have a great day. Bye. And P.S. I just wanted to add in that I know it's hard for a lot of people, including myself, to sit down and read a book. I myself only really read the scriptures in books, and I've read things to my kids because reading is good for you. It's a good activity. But also the opportunity for all the things that we can learn and gain knowledge. And so I just wanted to commit to do this for people that would like to read this book, but maybe don't have the opportunity and the means maybe to do it, and an opportunity to talk with people about it, because we learn so much more in life by each other and brothers and sisters of God, as children of God. And say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.